everybody. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays. It's your girl, Coach Christal. And week by week, we have the opportunity to use this platform to talk to people who I admire, who I love their work, and also people who I constantly learn from, right? You've heard me say it before that if your coach doesn't have a coach, then you might be in a place where learning has already stopped. So if you're here and you're being welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays for the first time, we want to welcome you here with our mantra that just says a lot of things happen before this, and I guarantee a lot of things are going to happen after this. But I promise to be here with you now. Please be here with me now. In much of the work that we do on this platform in terms of visioning, we look at the past as regret, the future as anxiety, and your power being in the present moment. So right now we get to be here together in this virtual space to talk to someone who is about future, but who is also about doing the work of building futures that people can work into. So tonight our guest is the amazing Kelli Jackson, and Kelli is here to talk to us or have a conversation with me about the work and the work. So Kelli, tell us in your own words who you are. Welcome, welcome.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so honored. You're amazing. I feel so zen now.
Bringing it right. I
feel so zen now. Well, like you said, I'm Kelli Jackson, and I help mid to late career professionals just elevate their brand, their professional brand, take it to the next level. Whatever that means for them, I am here to support and encourage them all the way. That's me.
Amazing. So Kelli, just a little backstory, like how did you get into knowing that this was the work you wanted to do?
Well, it's interesting. I didn't know, right? So I've always been in, back in the day, late 90s, right? I'm dating myself. It was called, recruiting. I was in HR. There's different disciplines in HR. You got employee relations, compensations, employee benefits, all the things, the payroll. And then when I, went through kind of staffing, I'm like, you know what, this is a discipline that I can get into because you can measure it, right? Mm-hmm. Once you get that job and you feel that job is done, right? I can measure how long it took me to fill, the quality, how long they stay, all the things are measurable. And I'm that person, right? I like goals and benchmarks and things like that. Yeah. And so I like that discipline. I stayed with it. And then I went through my stint in corporate America and decided that, I'm going to leverage the skills that I had throughout my 30-year career in talent acquisition. And I'm going to now share with others, especially people that look like myself, right? Or Black and brown people, and, work through some of the corporate politics because nobody taught me about them. I didn't know about them. I had to have the experiences and doing the crying and all the things, right? And so I took that, leveraged the skills, transferred them into what I'm doing now and created my businesses. So here I am.
Amazing, right? I think even the way you're describing it, right, may not feel like it's accessible to a lot of people.
Sure.
Right? So you're talking about it in a way that it made sense for your life to grow into this thing, right? A lot of times we're talking about vision and how it calls you into growing into something. But there are some tangible things here. Like one, you had experience with something, right? It didn't have to be the thing you loved. You translated that experience into a skill set that you could measure and actually articulate. And then you were able to use those same skills to leverage something for yourself, right? I think a lot of times we miss pulling the lever of transformation.
Absolutely.
Was there something that pulled or pushed you to make that change?
Well, like I said earlier, I didn't know that, I always knew, I'll say this, I always knew that I wanted to start my own business, but I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how to get there, right? And I also knew that I had a set of skills that I was good at, but it didn't dawn on me to marry the two together. And honestly, it was in a period of meditation and frustration and anger and uncertainty and not sure and really like mad at God, if I can be honest, because I'm like, I don't have these feelings on my own. You created me. So why am I so discombobulated and not sure what I want to do? And I'll never forget, I was on my balcony and I was meditating. And it was like, I think sometimes we look for like thunderous noise or a huge sign, but it was like a little bitty whisper. And it was like, you already have it. And I'm like, recruiting? I'm like, don't nobody want to hear about that? Because what oftentimes we think what we do is just what we do and nobody really care. But what happens is a lot of people think that they have to start over and create something new. But starting over isn't starting from scratch.
Exactly. Exactly.
Leverage that and then transition it into something else. So honestly, that's how I started. And, it kind of evolved and morphed into this with the pandemic and everybody out of work. And, I help people for free. And then it turned into what it is today.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think many people might be in a frustrated place right now, right?
Sure.
They may be feeling pulled towards something, they may be pushed towards something, they may feel like they're in pain or in confusion, which, right, on our practice, we actually define confusion as two odds that are trying to make sense of each other, right?
Wow.
And so it's like we don't want to get caught in like trying to be pulled from this or that. We just get to choose. And
Right.
I think a lot of times making that decision to say, I'm going to do something is really the place.
Yeah.
When clients come to you, Kelli, when they're ready to take these transitions in their career, what's the biggest hurdle for them?
Yeah. And, when they come to me, they've already been thinking about it because you
Yeah,
just don't wake up overnight and say, let me call Kelly, right?
yeah,
It's something you've already been thinking about.
right,
You
right,
may have seen me somewhere and then say, you know what, let me just see. And, I often say, it's for the serious, not the curious, right? Just for them to come and have a conversation. And when I
right,
talk to them, they're frustrated.
yeah,
They're not motivated to continue doing what they've been doing.
right,
They may have gone to school and what they went to school for now with automation and digital disruption, that role ain't there anymore.
exactly.
So I didn't spend all this money and all this time
Mm-hmm.
to be this thing, and it's not or this position, and it's not there anymore. So they're frustrated, or they've been sitting in a role where they don't feel valued,
Yeah,
right? Or it's just the scope of work that they're doing now is no longer serving them. It's not benefiting them. It's not challenging them, and
yeah,
so. And it's typically, like I said, mid to late career, and they're on what we call kind of like the second half.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And they feel like, well, am I going to be discriminated against because of my age? Or
Right,
I don't want to start over. And again, they don't realize that they can take what they have.
yep,
It's mobile. Your
yep,
skill set is mobile, and they can transition it into what they want to do. I know it's a long answer to your question, but most of them show up frustrated. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think frustration is a common emotion, right? Like it is a part of that whole big squad of anger.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's really also what you were just describing. Like you were angry with God. Like, why do I have this thing and I don't know what to do with it? And I'm using it not for my greatest good or my high. Like, what do I do with my gifts?
Yeah.
When clients come to me, a lot of times I go, well, what are your gifts and talents? And they go, I don't have any. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that can't be true. Right.
Right.
Do you bake the best apple pie at Thanksgiving? Like, we're not talking about saving the world here, but are you the person everybody calls when they need something? There's something in you that
Yeah.
just needs a little shift so that you can see it as the thing you were meant to do.
Right. Right. That's for sure.
I think let's throw in one of those words here that people are often grappling with, right? So when people get their first job out of college or when they build a career that allows them to have a certain type of lifestyle, they're not always thinking about purpose.
Mm.
Right. They're thinking about a paycheck. They're thinking about putting things in motion. They could be the first person in their family to go through this next level of education or acquisition. So when you get these people who are frustrated, Kelli, I mean, I know what happens in my practice, but when you get these people who are frustrated with their quote unquote job and they want to pursue something bigger, do they find something that is aligned with their purpose, or is the skill set the driver?
Well, again, it's interesting when you talk about purpose, and from my perspective, often what we have heard and what has been shared with us is that it's outside of us. It's like an Easter egg hunt, and it's going out there, and I'm going to find my purpose.
Right.
But in actuality, in reality, it's in here.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Just like you said, right?
Yeah.
It's in here, and I'm sure you shared. That's the work that you do. It's in here, and so. I talk with them and it eventually it comes out, because if it's on your heart, it's going to come out. You're going to talk about it. You're going to speak about
Right.
it. But just like me, I didn't realize it was already what I had.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we have to work through that, because it's a mindset shift that needs to happen, because we've been programmed to go through this system of getting a good education, getting a good job, saving in our 401k, and then retiring. That's the blueprint. That's the plan that we all have. But it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Because now, right? And for a lot of people, especially mid to late career, that blueprint has shifted because what you've gone to school for, that role, it ain't there no more, or half of it has been automated,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right. And it's frustrating because that's not what I signed up for. This
Hmm.
ain't working like I was told, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
finding your purpose is about going within
Yeah.
and really tapping into your gifts and your talents.
Yeah.
And, we work with people and kind of mapping that out and creating a roadmap. It's what do you enjoy? What fulfills you, right? Where can you contribute at a high level? Where you can make a great impact and get paid?
Exactly. Right. Right. Because I think you kind of summed it up, right? It's always about the good, and we
Hmm.
never get to the great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, many of us were raised in that generation where you get the good job. The people
Hmm.
like you there. You just stay there. And that's what our parents did. So we were told to do that. And for those of us who, didn't necessarily stick to the plan, people thought we were crazy. People were like, what are you doing? How are you living? How are you even making a living? Do you have any, like, it was all the questions that then breed that other level of insecurity while you're
Hmm.
trying to find your intuition. And when your insecurity is outweighing or yelling, like that thunder you were asking for, when the insecurity is yelling louder than the intuition, we just get drowned out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
You
true.
know, a lot of times, Kelly, I think about people just like us who had all of these skills, had all of these talents, but hadn't put them together, right? And I think about my own trajectory to this point.
Hmm.
Maybe some of you have heard this story before, but Coach Christal was born out of dancers in my professional company putting their phones on record during company meetings. And I was thinking that they were taking minutes or creating a task list. And they were like, oh no, we're listening to this later. This is a whole podcast. And I was like, what? Right. And I thought, Kelly, that the only people I could speak to in that intimate, deep way were the artists who were around me. But
Mm.
then I was starting to teach courses at the college in entrepreneurship and innovation. And I was noticing that creative process looked a lot like design thinking. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, this is the same thing, right?
Mhm.
How do we marry these skills and then allow ourselves to influence and inspire the people we really love?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it all counts, like you're saying, right? And
Mhm.
find the purpose on the way, but it's really coming from inside as a navigation point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. And when I was, working in corporate America, I didn't feel as if I felt like I was in a cage. I
Mm,
couldn't, I couldn't like be creative and get out. And I wanted it so bad. And I was asking, the people I was reporting to, and I was asking for what I thought at the time was what I needed. But now in hindsight, I didn't have the space
yeah.
be me and do what that comes naturally for me. I
Yeah.
didn't have, there wasn't a space for me there. I had to create my own space.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's important. And I think giving yourself permission to do that is also a hurdle for most people. So if you're just joining us, welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays. I'm Coach Christal. My guest is Kelly Jackson, and we are talking about the work behind the work. So Kelly and I were just at a conference together, and she was talking about the clients that she creates, right? We were talking about how they were self-starters and go-getters, right? And we were thinking like, how do you create that type of energy inside of a person that is willing to use their skill without being asked, without being told, and look towards the vision of a project without having to be managed?
That's good. That's good. That's good. And I think it's what you just said, that one word, willing.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Say
Yeah.
more.
It's will. It's willing to step out there on faith. It's willing to know that that check may not come on the 1st and the 15th for a few months. It's willing to be vulnerable for that uncertainty versus that security. It's
Mm,
willing to tap in versus out. It's willing to leverage what you have and not thinking that you have to start from scratch.
yeah.
Starting over isn't. It's the willingness. That's all it takes. Because if you're frustrated enough, and you only got one life, and you only got a certain amount of time, and that you want a better quality of life, and that you deserve more, you have to
Yeah.
know these things. It's a system that you're up against, which is
It
your
is.
belief system, because what you believe is what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you do is what you get.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
it. That's
I
it.
mean, I just want to make sure that everybody heard that. Are y'all hearing this? Like, it's not about being perfect. It's not about doing it all right. And it's not about knowing everything before you start. The biggest thing to do is to take the next step to start, because if you don't start, you're going to stay in the frustration. And there are countless studies that lead us back to understanding that the mind is influencing the body, and the body's health is built on how we think. So if you're sitting in mental frustration, you're going to be sitting in physical cancer, disease, and all kinds of other disruptions to this one life that we have.
Mm,
Uh,
that's good. That's so
Kelli, listen, the work in front and the work inside, I feel like, are things that we have to practice,
right.
right?
Right.
And when you think about getting your clients ready to take that next step, or be willing to even go to the next interview, the next level of the thing that they said they want, what do they have to practice on the way?
That's a great question because, 80%, and I share this with my clients, 80% of what I call this game is the
Yeah,
confidence. And that's nothing that I can't give you that,
right,
right? That's
right.
something that you have to work, like you said, you have to work towards. And it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So when they come to me, they're already at the level, right, of they're already at the point in life to the level of their thinking, right? This has gotten them this far. So now to elevate, to go to that next level, you have to
Mhm.
be willing to open your mind to a new mindset and a
Yeah.
new shift. And you showed up here to get on this call and to
Mhm.
go to the next step because you're worth more. You know
Yeah.
you want more. So
Yeah.
that tells me that you are willing to take that step. And so the confidence is 80% of the game. And
Mm.
once we work on that, so the process is about changing the mindset.
Uh-huh.
That's 80% of the game. And then the tactical stuff, the resume and the interviewing and all the other stuff that comes with it. But being able to sell your value to someone, you got to convince them. If you don't believe in it first, that's an
Nobody.
80% confidence, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Crystal not gonna believe it. You want to show up and be her director of operations. You don't even believe in yourself. I think I can do it. I think I can help. Well, I think I'm going to move on to the next candidate. That's what
Right. Right. Right.
I think.
That's good. Because, okay, I mean, let's be just super real about this, right? Confidence is one of our core values here at Steps and Stages.
Mm,
Clarity, confidence, inside community, right? We look at confidence not as that thing you've been doing, which is really your integrity, because what you're calling confidence is that people can depend on you, you get things done. That's an
mm,
external thing, right? Confidence really means that you are confiding within, and that you are keeping your agreements with yourself. And so when we tell ourselves we're capable of something, but we don't show up to practice it, we actually deplete our confidence, right? And
mm.
so what you're saying is, I can't show up with this depleted tally sheet that I've told myself I'm going to do, and I don't get it done over and over, and say that, oh, but if you need me to get something done, I'm going to get it done for you, right?
Mm,
Because that's
mhm.
not the internal motivation of a go-getter, a self-starter, or someone who's willing to get outside their comfort zone.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's good. That's really, really good. That's needed. That's so needed.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of those, we grew up, I mean, I think we're close to the same age. So we grew up with all the empowerment programs about self-esteem, and
Hmm.
all those things that you were supposed to have and instill in you to be basically be a good worker or be a leader. And coming from my background as a performer, as a pageant kid, as a, first gen, all these things, I realized that self-esteem is dangerous,
Mm.
because you can be highly esteemed and not love yourself. And the esteem you're looking for is from the outside. People have highly esteemed me for many years in my life. I have
Hmm.
loved myself for probably, I can count on two hands,
Hmm.
right? But it's a different configuration of what my skills and assets are for, what my gifts do for me and the world. But that esteem piece was, I think, a little bit convoluted back in the day when they were giving it to us.
Mm. That's good.
And I think it's what gets people stuck in some of the positions you're talking about in corporate America. Like, look at my title. I'm highly esteemed.
Right. That's true.
Right?
That's good, Crystal. Yeah,
And
that's
then when you
true.
get stuck in the title and you feel the comfort of the esteem, how do you separate from that?
Yeah, that's true. That's good. It's kind of like what Cat Williams said, it's called self-esteem, right?
Right,
It is
right.
self, right?
Yeah. But we weren't taught the self part. We were just thought if
Right,
other people think you're
right.
doing a good job, then you must have good self esteem. No, that means I know how to create a persona that other people like, but it might not be who I really am.
That's good. No,
Right.
that's golden. That's golden. And it's tied into like people tie their identity into their titles,
Yeah.
right? And that's where they get their esteem from. You take
Yeah.
that title away. I've seen it a lot of times when people got demoted and came to HR and wanted to literally, sue the company,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because they had their whole identity tied into this title.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And at that point, what you're talking about doing the accounting of the skills that actually build the title. So
Hmm.
you can so with the title is gone, right? You can take it with you. I mean, look, Tina Turner was like, "Forget Ike, I just want my name."
Right.
Right, when it's all said and when all the battery, all the equipment is over, like just give, you know what I'm saying? I have
Right.
those
Right.
things, right? That kind of really understanding what your skill, what you've been doing, and how to do it better somewhere else.
Right. For
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
If you're just joining us, y'all, I'm Coach Christal. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays. This is our guest, Kelli Jackson. We're talking about the work behind the work. Please feel free to post your questions on any platform that you're watching on. And we just want to remind you that the end of the year is coming. Happy New Year's Eve. And if you need something to get you calibrated or just thinking in the direction that we're talking about, grab your ticket to Vision Camp Virtual. It's at ssvisioncamp.com. Now, getting back to the work, Kelli, we've been asking everyone on our podcast this year the same question. And it is a question that is brought to us by the writer Pico Eiler. It says, "You are only as strong as your readiness to surrender."
Mm,
And you spoke about the moment of frustration where you knew it was time to either take it to the next level or like have a boxing match with God.
right.
When were you, what made you be ready to surrender, or how do you find it, how do you find your clients find that place of surrender to just say yes to themselves?
Mm, that's an excellent question. I think, for me, it was, I've always been a person that's been a risk taker,
Mm,
from, relocating from Illinois to Georgia with $85 in my pocket. And
mhm, mhm.
I just, either I'm going to make it or I'm not. Right. And
Right.
so I've always been a person that, my bishop who said, I'll never forget years ago, he said, when you get to heaven, God's going to say, okay, here's what I had for you. And here's what you decided to do. I
Yeah.
want everything that's for me, and
Yep.
that stays with me. And so I just go after what I want. And so I had to make a decision. And you mentioned earlier, a great point, being somewhere where I was frustrated and unmotivated and felt devalued, I started having heart palpitations. And
Mm,
when it started affecting my health, because
yeah.
I'm a big proponent of, taking care of yourself, from my perspective,
Yeah.
I had to go. I didn't know what was next. I don't recommend this for everyone to just go,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because it ties into the quality of your life. But for me, I had to go. And so there were a lot of tears. I was
Hmm.
afraid, but I was willing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so um, that was for me. But clients that come to me, they're not sure. They want to see, they want answers. They want, most of the times they want me to tell them, what to do.
Hmm.
But it's so much more. Like you mentioned earlier, it's about them.
Yeah.
And what does that look like for you? And so
Yep.
I'm just here as a sounding board, right? And just to be there. And sometimes it's just the support and
Yep.
being there and just having someone to listen to what's going on that understands, that
Yep.
gets it. Because our spouses, our significant others, and our family members, sometimes it's like, they don't want to hear that or they don't get it.
Right.
Um, but I get the frustration and the
Hmm.
unmotivation. And so some of them come to me at a tipping point, right? I've cried with many, prayed with some,
Right. Right.
and it is frustrating. And, we tap in, and that's the only way. It's not here's this program, this will fix everything, because
Right.
that's not going to do anything. I know it's inside work that has to be done.
Yeah.
So, they do come to me at, an emotional state, and some are just, ready for something new, uh,
Mm-hmm.
something different, and, what's next for them. And
Yeah.
so I speak to them about, what does that look like? If you could have your ideal situation, ideal career,
Yeah.
what would that look like for you?
Yeah.
And then we kind of reverse engineer on the
Mm-hmm.
steps to get there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, ultimately, people are looking for results,
Yeah.
right? And we get sucked into this results focused type of industry, type of life, type of quick access to things, and then the work or the process of actually not just getting the job you want or getting the husband you want or getting the house you want, like
Mhm.
who you have to actually become to
Mhm.
have those things.
Right.
My clients, I love them, they're so smart. We were just talking to our mastermind a month ago, and one of them said, I'm really having trouble with my affirmations because they're so big, right?
Mhm.
Like, some people write affirmations, I'm a millionaire, I'm a billionaire, I am this, right? And he added the exact word that you're talking about, willing.
Mm.
We
Mhm.
just added the word, I am willing to be this. I am willing to have that,
Wow.
right? And it just opens you up to receiving what
Mhm.
we call like whatever comes into your vision vortex, right? You get to name it and bring it in. But it gives people a little bit of a shift, like you're saying, in their mindset from attaining to accepting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a game changer because it takes the competition out of it.
It does. It
Right.
absolutely does. That's amazing that you shared that, because that day that I was sitting on my balcony and I was
Mhm.
meditating, and when I opened my eyes, like never before, I saw all these trees with all these leaves, and it went on as far as I can see,
Yeah.
far as I can see.
Yeah.
And God said, "That's the abundance." So to your point about competition and all of these other things, and He's like, "That's the abundance."
Yeah.
And I'm like, everywhere I turned, everywhere I looked, there was a tree, and I was looking on top of trees, and I'm just like, and I started crying because I got it.
Yes.
I got it.
Right. Right.
It's not a woo woo thing. And like what you're saying is so important.
Yeah.
It's the affirmations and sitting still and tapping in is so important, because it's like I never seen it before. And I lived there. Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen it before.
You're like, this is my balcony. I was not on vacation. This is my balcony. Right. Right.
Never saw it before. Yeah.
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 No, but it's true. The work I think is about seeing us ourselves from the inside out and
Mhm.
then allowing that to translate into what we're actually doing.
Right.
Right. And I think we get so much feedback from the thing we're doing into who we should be and how we should look and how we should talk and how much money we should make and all the things that we forget that it's really a wellspring from the inside.
Yeah.
I
For
mean,
sure.
that abundance is like a reminder every time you take a breath in and out. You didn't buy that breath.
Right. Right.
Right. You can't, like, what are you going
Right.
to do? You can't lessen your dependence. Or you can't be like, I'm tired of breathing today. I'll do it tomorrow.
Right.
Right. Like, it's that simple, but we miss the simplicity of our existence because we're trying to get something else.
That's it.
Right.
That's it. That's it.
Um, Kelli, any last words you want to leave our audience with? I just want to thank you, first of all, for sharing your time with us. I know that your time is valuable and that the work that you do with your clients is transformational. You have allowed several people to be in your midst and be transformed by your skill, your talent, your grace, but mostly, I think, your commitment to your own gift. And what would you say to people who are looking to transition their career or looking to make a change at this point in their lives?
First, thank you again for having me. Like, this is amazing. The work that you're doing, I'm super proud of you. I'm super excited for everything that you're doing. And I know your clients are getting super great results. And it starts with you, it starts with what you're doing. The work that you're doing is so important, so valuable, and it's so needed. So thank you for having me. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. I would say that start within, definitely touch base with Christal and do the work, the inner work, to get to you to a space and a mindset of what's possible uh,
Mm,
for you. Because there's so much that's possible, and there's so much distraction and noise around us that shares with us what's not possible,
Yeah,
all the negativity and all the things, and in the distraction we don't see the opportunities.
that's true.
And opportunities cost us. It's going to cost you either way: time, money, resources. Either way it goes, it's going to
Right.
cost you. Leverage what you have in your hand.
Mhm.
Starting over, if I could leave final words, doesn't mean starting from scratch.
No.
You already have it. It's already within you. And if you have that feeling that Christal talks about and taps into, and those affirmations, you already know that you're willing to be a millionaire. You're
Right.
willing to have a better quality of life.
Yeah.
If you're saying that, the next step is just to believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing. Kelli, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. Again, you can catch this replay on any of our socials. And if you missed Vision Camp Live, which, it was good, y'all. We had an amazing party. You can catch Vision Camp Virtual December 31st. We're calling it New Year's Eve. So before you decide to go out in the world or make some resolutions or get dressed up to go to a party you're going to want to leave early, check in with us and check in with us in the afternoon and make sure you're clear on what the next 365 days could have the capacity to do in your life and in your vision. This is Wisdom Wednesdays. I'm your girl, Coach Christal. We'll see you next time. Have an amazing evening.
Bye.